The first thing I think that we'll talk about tonight is winning time.
Let's do it.
I have I'm not sure about the yellow on yellow background that I have going on. It's a little bit, it might be a bit much for the eyes, but winning time is the story of the rise of the LA Laker dynasty, beginning with Magic Johnson's rookie year after Dr. Jerry Buss purchases the team. The season is fraught with perils from both inside the locker room and out, as the team must come together to make a run at a title that will save Dr. Buss's investment. John C. Reilly stars as Jerry Buss and some of the other folks that appear in this television show. Quincy Isaiah stars as Magic Johnson, Jason Clark as Jerry West, Gabby Hoffman as Claire Rothman, Hadley Robinson, Jeannie Buss, Devon Nixon as Stormin Norman Nixon, Solomon Hughes as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people. Yeah.
Trying to find some. Adrian Brody is Pat Riley, Tracy Letts is Jack McKinney, and Jason Siegel as Paul Westhead. There's some others that pop up here and there, but that's kind of the main people, I would say. So, winning time. Story of the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll get into a little bit of the controversy surrounding the show after we talk about it a little bit, but what did you think of this sort of biopic, faux documentary type situation from executive producer Adam McKay, I believe executive producer?
The number one thing I'll say about it's entertainment. And that's the thing that I mean, it's the Showtime Lakers. This is before they are the Showtime Lakers, right. But that's what you want. This is what you want though, is it's entertaining, it's a little fast, and it's a little loose, much like that team was. I mean, is it a perfect show? No, it is not a perfect show. And I have my faults with it for sure. But what I like about it is I thought the cast was really well done. I think everybody kind of, as well as you could do with something like that. I mean, right. The actor who plays Magic Johnson reminds you of Magic Johnson because he's got that nice big smile, and he's very you're rooting for him. Even if you're not rooting for him, you're rooting for him. And even the side characters, the guy, the actor who plays Larry Bird. Yeah, he doesn't look exactly like Larry Bird, but he has the asshole that that Larry Bird is, just kind of oozing through him. And I thought that was really great. And so I thought the casting was just super well done. The story had its issues. It's based off a book by Jeff Pearlman. It's not taken directly from that. That's the one thing, is Jeff Pearlman's book is based off of fact. And then this is a fictionalized version of things based off fact. I think the one reason you do that is you just want things to be entertaining, and you're putting in an 8-episode TV show. It's hard to make that a book that's 300 pages.
Was it say 10 episodes?
10 episodes. I'm sorry. 10. I'm sorry. The other show we're doing is 8. 10 episodes, where it's to put that in there, and you want to keep people watching. You don't want to get into those slogs. You want to have the villain, the anger, all those different things. So I understand why it went that direction. The criticisms I will have of it, I know Adam McKay does this, but breaking the fourth wall, there was a little too much of it for me at sometimes. There were some episodes where I felt like Jerry Buss broke the fourth wall every 2 minutes. And it actually drove me nuts and made me dislike certain things about that a lot. Because it was just I don't need it all the time. I just want to see the storyline. But overall, I thought the show had a good entertainment value. And I look forward to it for sure. Do I think it's, the greatest thing ever done? No, I don't. And that's crazy for anyone to think that. But I do think it accomplished its goal.
I think that between this, which is obviously, as you mentioned, a sort of characterized version of this team a little bit, maybe a little bit of seasoning and salt and pepper added for entertainment value. But between this and The Last Dance, I think that there's kind of a thirst for more sports-based television. I know Friday Night Lights, for example, had a pretty decent run on network TV with Kyle Chandler and Michael B. Jordan in the latter seasons. And I just think that there's something about that. Another one, and I joke a lot with our friend Dale about this because we used to watch it freshman year of college, but was Playmakers, right? And the NFL had to shut that show down because it peeled back the curtain and kind of showed the ugly side of the NFL. And I think that's part of the reason why Hard Knocks does so well, year in and year out. But I do think that there is kind of a thirst for this. And this is such a, number one, it's a very interesting and very important era of NBA basketball, arguably the most important era. Yeah. And a lot of people, would point to the early 90s with Jordan and stuff like that. But I don't think that without this team and then also Bird and the Celtics, that we maybe even get Air Jordan, because the year before the finals that took place the year before this season that's depicted was broadcast on tape delay. It wasn't even live.
Right.
And you can go back and read there's plenty of books about this time period. I think probably the most well-regarded is the one that Johnson and Bird kind of co-opted with a ghostwriter.
Jackie McMullen.
Yeah. What's it called?
Yeah.
Like When We Were Legends or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we'll kind of get into the characters here, but like you said, I looked forward to it once I got caught up on it, because I didn't start it until about halfway through the season. But once I got caught up, I looked forward to it every week. And it's not like there's spoilers. Everybody knows how this season ends, right? It's not fictionalized in that way. We know, but it was kind of interesting to see some of the interactions. And I didn't know about like the coaching situation that happened with Jack McKinney and the bike accident, and how that kind of shook out and would eventually lead to Riley taking over and stuff like that. So it was kind of interesting from a historical standpoint. I didn't love the way I know Larry Bird was an asshole, but they really hammed that up a little bit. And I think they
hammed up a lot of things though. Yeah. So I think that's kind of it too.
Par for the course. Yeah. So let's just kind of get into, we won't go through everybody, but maybe some of the, 3 or 4 more important characters. We'll start with John C. Riley as Dr. Jerry Buss, the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. What did you think of John C. Riley's performance?
I thought it was good. I think the one thing that's sort of funny is this is the show that ended the relationship between Adam McKay and Will Ferrell. Because Adam McKay didn't even ask Will Ferrell to audition for this, and that made Will Ferrell upset. So that's just one thing to kind of point out about it. I mean, I thought John C. Riley as Jerry Buss was a fairly good depiction, especially of that era. I mean, the only thing I really didn't like was all the constant breaking of the fourth wall, but
you said that,
the bombasticness of Jerry Buss and the ego and all those things, I thought was really perfect. I mean, I thought he was just, it's John C. Riley. I mean, he kills it every single time, no matter what he does. It's just sort of his deal. And I thought that was definitely the case here. It's not his fault he's breaking the fourth wall. That's what's written. That's what's done in the thing.
Right.
But I thought he was great.
Yeah, I really liked him. I certainly can see him probably being, nominated for, since this is going to be a limited series, I could see him certainly being nominated for an Emmy for Best Actor. I think that's not outside the realm of possibility. I thought he pulled the character off really well. He's when he does comedy, and I would consider this almost comedy, his role.
Sure. Yeah.
A little bit more slapsticky, and this was a little bit more serious and certainly narcissistic, but I thought he did really well. Before we move to Magic Johnson, I just want to talk a little bit about Jason Clarke and his portrayal of Jerry West, or what Jerry West might see less of a portrayal and more of a betrayal, as he's willing to go to court because he's so upset that he was portrayed kind of as a out of control, his quote, out of control, intoxicated rageaholic. What did you think about Jason Clarke in his role as Jerry West, the logo?
I mean, it definitely felt over the top just watching it. I mean, a lot of stuff, but Also, Jerry West, I mean, I know he's going to, he's fighting this, all these things, but like, he's also known as like kind of a curmudgeonly guy.
Sure.
I mean, he's not the happiest guy in the world. And that's well documented. That is 100% well documented. Did he act like this? I mean, I think it's one of those things where like, obviously he's not going to admit to acting like this. He wouldn't want to look like this. And then people that, were around him are not going to say, yeah, he was just like this. So who's to say? But then again, it is, like I said before, it's a TV show and you have to bring out that entertainment. And it's like, if you're doing a show like this and you know that Jerry West is a bit of a curmudgeon and has a little bit of an anger issue, which these are all documented, like he was pissed after he won the championship. And so like, these are things that about him, they're just there and people know. And so I think it's one of those things where like, did they go over the top with him? Yes. Is he going over the top with the accusation and saying this is probably somewhere in the middle? It's like one of those things. And, but I thought his actual portrayal of it was, fun. I think if you're going for that, he plays that role of being like this guy that's, the game's kind of beyond him at this point. And that's just the way it's going. And I think I thought he did a good job.
Quincy Isaiah as Magic Johnson, and Magic also had some criticisms saying that he was upset because none of the actual Lakers who are still around were invited to participate or give feedback or anything like that. What did you think of Quincy Isaiah as Magic Johnson?
I mean, he had that feel of Magic Johnson. He's not, I definitely would say like the acting was whatever with him. I mean, it was astounding, but he had the feel of Magic Johnson. I think just anytime, I don't know, to me, it's when you see like an editorial in a magazine written about the person by that person. Like when Beyonce writes something, like I don't want the Lakers that were in this time to have a part in this really, because they're going to shine the greatest light in the world. It's like, I don't want to sound like rude about Magic Johnson, but he did things. There's a reason why he ended up the way he did. I mean, like, this isn't shocking. Like, he was known for cheating on his wife. I mean, this is stuff that actually happened and he's admitted to later on. To say like, he didn't like the portrayal of things. It's like, hindsight's 2020, and yes, you probably feel bad about going back on this, but these are things that actually happened. I mean, it's just, I understand this idea is that we want people to look at it like this, and it's like, but nobody looks at them like this anymore. This is how, if you look at the show and when it was actually supposed to take place, it's like, you don't look at Magic Johnson like that anymore. However you looked at him, whatever, but like, there are things about him that are not the greatest thing in the world. Like he was not the greatest person, and none of these people are. I am not either. I'm not saying that I am either, but I'm just pointing out, like, if you can't look at yourself in the mirror 20 years ago and like be like, well, that's how I was, that's not how I am, then that's
40 years ago.
Or 40 years ago. I'm sorry, 40 years ago. If you can't be like, I'm not that person, and you're so mad about that, then that's something inside of you that's a problem and not what somebody is doing. To me, that's how I look at it.
Solomon Hughes, who played Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, this was his first major role. Solomon Hughes, and just on the Kareem side of things, he the real life Kareem said that they had taken solid facts of the story and were deliberately dishonest in their portrayal. And he specifically cited Jerry West, the Jerry West character. He didn't really have anything to say so far as I've seen about how he was portrayed. Kareem is known as being, as you said, a bit of a curmudgeon himself. Didn't really have a whole lot of friends within the league, didn't have a whole lot of close associates as some of these other guys who, he was kind of isolated, and he kind of did, he did that to himself, and it's well documented. But what did you think of Solomon Hughes as Kareem? I thought he did an excellent job.
Oh, I did too. I honestly think of everyone of actors we didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought he did the best, especially what we know about Kareem and stuff that even Kareem's admitted. I mean, this is new to anyone on that end of things. Kareem all he does is defend Jerry West, and and this is maybe deep diving into basketball too much and not really. All a lot of people do is defend Jerry West because he failed so much, but he failed, but also by getting to the finals a billion times.
Right.
It's like, it's one of these things where it's like, is it failure? I don't know. I mean, these are teams that, the teams that were playing at the time, these Celtics teams were insane, especially compared to the rest of the league. I mean, and I'm not going to compare eras. That doesn't matter. At the time, these teams were insanely good. And there's this whole thing about defending Jerry West. There just always has been. I mean, if you've read anything on Bill Simmons has talked about it. I mean, you look at, I think in our, as our age group, Bill Simmons is probably the person you think of when you think of basketball writing. He did write a 800-page book on it. And we went and saw him and met him because of this.
Yes.
And that's talked about. And there's this thing about defending Jerry West. And I think it almost comes to the thing where you defend something so much, then it's like, because it's wrong. Like, there's just that thing of like, when you get so defensive about something, you obviously have something bad about back on that. And I know that's not, exactly what you asked me, but I just want to point out, I do think there's a little too much too far, but on his portrayal of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I really liked it. I thought, like I said, I thought it was maybe the strongest performance based on, I know nothing about him. And then it was great. Like John C. Reilly, we know is a good actor, a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
So you're expecting him to be good. Sure. But having never seen this guy in my life, playing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a known curmudgeon, but also a very stoic figure, I thought that played really well. Yeah.
Tracy, let's just take these kind of last three together. Tracy Letts, Jason Segel, and Adrian Brody as Jack McKinney, Paul Westhead, and Pat Riley, respectively.
I thought all of them were overtop versions of themselves. And that's where I'm at with that. I think it was just over the top with every one of them, but I think that was the idea.
I didn't know anything about Jack McKinney because I don't know if he ever came back and coached after his bike accident, but he was the assistant of Dr. Jack Ramsey in Portland. Great book, The Breaks of the Game. If you want to kind of look into that Portland team a little bit more. But this was kind of in Showtime in general, and he was sort of the early architect of what would become Showtime. But this is kind of the space and pace and space game that we see in today's NBA.
Yep.
That a little bit more positionless basketball. I mean, they had Kareem, so you kind of have to cater to that a little bit more. But you really saw it at the end, Game 6 against the Sixers in the finals, where Magic 6'9" tips off at center, and they said, well, we're just we can't keep up with these guys physically. We're just going to run them off the floor, and that's 7 seconds or less Suns. That's the Warriors' death lineup.
Yeah,
all of those things where now you regularly go onto the court as a team, and your biggest guys maybe 6'9", as opposed to these big Goliaths. So I did find that kind of interesting. Didn't really know much about Paul Westhead, so it's kind of cool to see his background. I mean, obviously, if you're a fan of the game, you know who Pat Riley is. So, that's sort of
fancy dresser
there.
Cool dude.
Yeah,
good coach.
Looks like he belongs in a Scorsese movie.
Oh yeah, can't believe he hasn't been in one. Honestly,
just as a cameo, even.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you give this out of 10? I just actually real quick before you answer that, I do want to say that I really appreciated the way that the show was filmed and kind of that sort of grainy, it gave it a more authentic feel, I thought.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy the show. Like I said, entertainment value, great. The flaws of it do definitely hurt it. I mean, like I said, but I would give this a 7.5. I mean, that to me, that means it's watchable, it's entertaining, it does what it's supposed to do. There are some misses.
I think I would say, and I think it's a 7, but if you are a basketball fan, it's like an 8.5. Because just that's what sucked me in. And I was the first few episodes, I was like, come on, man, when are they going to get to actually playing
basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. It was all set up, and I wasn't as interested as I wanted the X's and O's. You know what I mean?
What did you think of the basketball? Because that's always a thing in anything like this. What did you think of the basketball?
I thought that they reused a lot of cuts,
Mm-hmm.
maybe made them from different angles to try to give it a different feel, but I didn't think it was great. I will say that I didn't think that was great. I thought that it was a little bit lackluster at times, and obviously this is an HBO thing, so you kind of expect movie theater quality. It is HBO,
right?
But I would say like some recent basketball films, going back to like Glory Road, or I mean, hell, what else has been out in the last however many years?
Right.
Coach Carter. I didn't think that the scenes were quite on that level, but they were okay. I would say that they were okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Okay. It's one of those things that anytime we watch a sport movie where you realize like you can look athletic, but being athletic is a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the thing.
I think that Quincy, Isaiah, and Solomon Hughes both, they felt enough like Magic and Kareem that it carried it.
Yeah.
So
definitely. Quincy definitely felt like he had dribbled a basketball before, and that was nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you watch a basketball movie, and they don't look like they actually know how to dribble a basketball. So
yeah, that is factual. That's 100% facts.